dream, the road kept going after the map ended. Just gravel turning into black water. You were walking ahead, but every time I called your name, the sound went wrong, came back as someone else's voice asking, why are you still missing?
Hi, everybody. I told you I'd be back. Sorry. The other day I told you I'd be back and my schedule went crazy. So sorry about that. But I'm here now and that's all that matters, right? Welcome, Kathy. It's good to see you. Um, Thank you so much. Yeah. I hope that everybody will go over and watch the Murdoch video that I did just a few minutes ago. It is not very long, and it would help my channel. So, yeah, please hit the thumbs up, hit subscribe. Now, what we're going to be doing today is just like the other day. I'm not going to dominate so much of the time by talking and interjecting. Hey, Cinnamon. I'm going to go ahead and just play my previously recorded reaction video. And I'm going to try really hard not to get triggered. It just makes me so frustrated to deal with these people. I will say this. I think keeping an eye on Every Day with Jay, she might, I don't know this to be true, but it seems like there may be some information coming about either Lauren or John or something. There may be something new breaking. So I don't have that information. I'm just guessing kind of, because I watch all her stuff. So just kind of waiting to see, what that is. So that's little interesting, right? Like it kind of, yeah, something else. You know what? For those of you that occasionally check in and watch some of the foodie, beauty, Goral World content, if you haven't looked at what's happening over there in like the past week, it's it's kind of interesting. I had checked out for months. I haven't looked in there in a long time, and I did pop in there, and it was kind of interesting. She got stopped by the police. She was on her scooter, doing her little rounds. I guess she went downtown to find food or something like that. Anyway, out of nowhere, five police officers descend on her and they basically say, "What do you have?" And she's like, "Excuse me?" And they said, "We've got reports that you have a gun." I mean, it was very strange. And over the past week or 10 days, apparently she has been getting a lot of weird occurrences, like people just showing up at her apartment, like government people just showing up at the government at her apartment with questions, right? So magically, Salah rears his ugly head and says some very curious things after the encounter with the police. And I'm thinking, you know what, cutie? You're probably on a government watch list. And word is out that your husband is, I have long maintained, I think he is a bad dude. And I have done videos. I've given my evidence for why I think old Salah is not just, a farmer's son. He's not just out there wanting to grow olives and potatoes, if you know what I mean. There is a reason why he was able to move into the heart of Al Qaeda country in Syria. He was able to move in. His family home was cleared so that he could work on it and get it all up to date and he could move in and live there, but he's living there today. They are shooting people that are trying to come back and take their homes from the terrorists that have taken over everything in that area of Syria. I have given my evidence. So, I said, if I were her, I'd be really aware of people keeping an eye on her and watching her. And if she thinks she's going to move money, get donations from Canada, transfer those donations into Syria, she better be careful. She better know the laws. She better know what she's playing with. And when those 5 cops stopped her out of nowhere, and they immediately said, "Do you have a gun?" And they searched her, guys. They searched her. Seems like there are a lot of eyeballs watching you, Foodie. And you were warned. I told you how it operates. I told you. So I hope that she's not doing bad things to get the money to pay for her fancy. She's got a gorgeous apartment. And she got demonetized by Facebook, not Facebook, YouTube, Kick. How in the world are you still staying in that apartment? How is it that you're able to order like DoorDash 3 times a day? How is it that you can buy $100 perfume? It's very, very strange. Where is the money coming from? Very odd. So that's going on over there on Foodie Beauty. If that's something that you've looked at in the past. Okay, now I'm going to be quiet and we are going to get back into this, and I'm not going to interrupt as much as I did the other day. Okay, is Foodie wearing hijabi? She's a hijabi. Yes, she is Muslima. Yep. All right, here we go. Remember, we've had the interruption that the camera was focusing on John's microphone and not his beautiful countenance. And this occurred right in the middle of when they were talking about the murders of these 2 young girls. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. So insensitive.
You can't blame it.
That was a good joke, John.
My microphone's pretty appealing.
Self-deprecating humor goes a long way.
Okay, moving on.
So let's start with that. I think it's important. So whether this is Alan or not, whoever committed these crimes, the research, the statistics would indicate a sexually motivated homicide. The
UK statistics. Okay.
Crime scene would indicate that. I think that's what we're looking at here.
The crime scene does not indicate a sexually motivated attack. The UK statistics are considered not a non-representational sample. So you can't extrapolate it to the population. Okay? All right, John.
Yeah.
As I said, it's entirely possible that maybe some random stranger or strangers, I guess, you could argue that maybe from the Odinism perspective, that there's some type of sacrificial element. But honestly,
now, here is the truth. There is more evidence that this was exactly what it was reported as, which was a cult-like observance. Multiple perpetrators involved. There's evidence of that. The judge didn't like that for some reason. I don't know if she felt like it would give maybe like a circus like atmosphere to the trial, perhaps, maybe something like that. But I can tell you just flat out, no hesitation at all. There is heavy activity where I live of people that practice Odinism. It's not just men, it's families, it's men and women. They have loads of land and they all go out on the weekends and ride four-wheelers and barbecue and hunt and fish and do all those things. You want to know a hotbed of Odinism activity? Colorado. Exactly where Barry Morphew moved to. And the main guy that started the chapter up there in having a brain fart, the county that they're in. Okay, I'll have to get it later. My brain is drawing a blank. But exactly there, close to Salida, there is a large retreat, and many people are now Odinists in the area, exactly the area where Barry was living. And you know where the main guy came from? Oh, Indiana. Where in Indiana? Just outside of Delphi. That's where the activity around Delphi is so big, so many guys involved in it, that they wanted to expand it to the Rocky Mountains. Okay, now I'm gonna interject. Sorry. Okay, so there is active participation in these groups in Indiana. Most specifically, either Southern Indiana or Central, which would include Delphi. As early as 2025 into 26, people were actively planning large gatherings. They're getting together at public events, and they're active organizations. Now, they may not specifically call themselves Odinists, though there are groups in North and Central Indiana that the people do say, "Oh, I am an Odinist." The Facebook groups tend to identify as like Norse pagan Indiana or heathen Indiana. And when you look up those, then you can easily find these groups that, I'm sorry, Judge, they are not fanciful. They are real live human beings that are active members where families are involved and they all get together and they all meet, they do stuff. Okay. There's a couple, we don't care about Southern Indiana, but there's a group called the Oakdale Kindred. There is which is Central and North Central Indiana. And then there is it's called Asatru community. So the Asatru Alliance is a national, long-standing organization of what they call kindreds, like-minded people. The Asatru Alliance is very active, very, very active in Kentucky and Missouri. And I know a lot about the expansion into Colorado. And I know that the guy that they sent to Colorado to open up that group came from Central Indiana, not Kentucky or Missouri, but Central Indiana, which says they've got a group active there in central Indiana, but they're not, maybe it wasn't big enough to draw attention, but they're there. And when you hear the word Odinism, it's actually interchangeable with asatru, or heathenry is another word that is often in the literature. Now, while the judge said this was sort of fanciful, right? She didn't want her courtroom to be turned into, a circus, right? The reality is these are like folk religions that emphasize European heritage. And we're seeing a great resurgence in that kind of thing, right? Even like starting in 2016. So the groups are inclusive. You don't have to say, oh, I'm an Odinist. They may identify with some of these other groups, like the Olsverd kindred or Grimnir's Crossroad kindred. Both of these are active groups in South Indiana, or the Oakdale kindred, which are in Central and North Indiana. So these are, I hate to say white supremacy type groups. It's more of a religious thing. It's like a way of life is chosen. And they're very inclusive. They don't care what brand of heathenry or what brand of paganism that you're practicing, as long as it is that European heritage kind of ancestry. You're welcome. They all bring it in together. Right? And there isn't the racist element that you get with white supremacy. It's really, the focus is sort of like on this way of life, if you will. So there are people that have published to explain that these groups are real people and they practice these beliefs as if they were a form of religion, right? So I can respect the judge not wanting to turn her courtroom into a circus, believing that the idea of Odinism, this ancient Viking way of life, that it was fanciful, right? That was the term, fanciful. The reality is it's real. These people are real. And the fact that you had two guys in the prison that were literally the guards for Richard Allen when he went crazy, they were wearing patches for the Vinlanders Social Club. These are named Odinists that have been operating in Indiana since the early 2000s. Now, are they gone? Have they gone underground since the whole thing that happened with Abby and Libby? Maybe. But it was there when Abby and Libby were killed. And they were very active, to the point that people were sewing patches on their work uniforms, and the warden told them they could. So that tells me, yeah, warden's probably a part of it too. Now, I don't know that. I'm just saying, why in the world would a warden allow like religious icons to be put on their official uniforms? So it's this is one of the elements that makes this case really interesting, and nobody had to lie to get to it. It's interesting, and I would never be such an arrogant, foolish person to discount other people's choices. If people want to live like ancient Norsemen, who am I to interfere and tell them that's wrong? If they do that and then they perform ritualistic death as a ceremony, well, then they ought to answer for it. That's my thought. Instead of coming up with, oh, it was sexually motivated because of these 5 things that have nothing to do with each other or the deaths of Libby and Abby. It's really terrible. They could go and train for the Great War that's going to happen. And where did they go? Oh, yeah, right there where Barry and Suzanne bought their $3 million log cabin. I didn't make that up. It's 100% accurate. You can look right now today, you can look on YouTube and there are literally thousands of videos of men who practice the Odin religion, and they're talking about it on their channels. They're not ashamed of it. It's not in obscurity. 2 of the guards that were watching over Richard Allen were wearing Odin patches on their work uniforms. It is incredible that they laugh, that John and Lauren laugh. Oh, these people are so stupid. They're not smart like we are. A real journalist and a criminal psychologist. A husband who won't work. We know so much more. I can even speak using vocal fry. Me and Nicole Kessinger, we're like the Kardashians. We are enlightened women and we get to use with uptalk and vocal fry. That's how they act. There's more. Just wait. We're getting to the fun part.
Most Odinists aren't going to sacrifice children.
Oh,
but let's
another grand proclamation from King John of the UK. Well, at least the statistics are from the UK. Most Odinists are not going to use child sacrifice. What the hell are you talking about? Don't be so ridiculous. When Odinists kill people, they always check their IDs to make sure they're over 21 years old. Everybody knows that if you're a criminal psychologist and a real journalist. What in the hell do you know about the Odinist or Odinism as a religion? What do you know about it, John? I'm curious. Inquiring minds want to know. Perhaps you could take a break from talking about child rape and do a video on your education, involvement, engagement with Odinism. We would like that. Please do that for us. The original gems and the hidden potatoes.
I want to get into that now. That's a different topic. But
We're hoping you'll give
we'll
us
stay focused.
bit.
We're trying. There's so much. We're trying.
Oh, it's so
Right,
much.
right. So I think that's a good place to start. You know, the other.
Now, guys, did you hear that? This is a good place to start. How long have we been at this so far? And how many points of contention have I been able to point out? And now the good doctor says, let's get started. Number 478, in through your nose, relax your abdomen, hold it, and long, slow exhale. All right, let's continue.
The other element, and I don't know if we should bring this in, but you've had some speculations of your own. Let's wait on that.
Okay, let's wait. Oh, did you see that? Oh, I missed that one. Let's watch this again. Just because I'm being snarky. Gee, I don't myself speak with uptalk and vocal fry, but I am a fan of the snark. You know what I mean? I like it. I like it. All right, now then, watch Lauren when he says, "Oh, you have some thoughts? Let's not talk about them." Watch Lauren. I just saw this. I didn't see it when I first reviewed it.
And I don't know if we should bring this in, but you've had some speculations of your own. Let's wait on that. Let's wait on that.
Okay.
Lauren, hun, look, if you want to bop him in the nose, I'll turn and look the other way. Okay. I don't know how you resist myself. No, I'm not a violent sort, but you know, John, you're kind of an asshole. You're kind of an asshole, John. You said, "Oh, I understand that you've got some points. You know, let's don't talk about them." That right there, that's the look she give ya. You're like a rotten potato, John. I mean, at least your channel members are the hidden potatoes, but you're just a rotten potato. You're a potato that's been left in the drawer for far too long. And when you open the drawer up, now there's like these scary, lumpy, soft, gross, yucky abomination of a potato. That's you, John. You're an asshole. Your wife had a point to make. She might be smarter than you. How about you be quiet and let Lauren give her points? You jerk. Sorry, y'all. Sorry. I told y'all I didn't want to do this.
But you
I did get a little triggered. My apologies for that. I should have told you to turn your speaker down. I'm sorry.
had some speculations of your own. Let's wait on that.
How awful was that? Let's just wait on that. I know you had some speculations on your own, but they're not worth talking about. The proclamation, I get to write the proclamation saying you are a rapist and you are a pedophile. We don't need to hear from the little lady. I bet she's smarter than you, John. That's why it took you 3 years to get over Lori Hellis interrupting you. And why right now, after your wife founded the YouTube channel, worked her ass off educating herself on how to do a YouTube channel, who manages to rake in $3 million, you have to act like you can't let her talk because she's just too dumb and stupid. I just keep her around because she's so cute. Lauren, stand up on your own 2 feet, girl. Why are you putting up with that nonsense from that aged potato? Sorry, Lauren.
Let's wait on that.
Okay.
You little fucker. Oh. I'm so sorry I said that. He is so pompous. Watch the look at the look on her face. I know what you are thinking, girlfriend. Lauren, I know what you're thinking, girl. I know what you're thinking. I'm right there with you. Well, finally, mark this day on your calendars, ladies. Me and Lauren, we are sisters. John, you know what? I'm not going to say it. I'm going to exercise some self-control. But I do think, John, that you're a little effer.
Let's wait on that.
Okay.
God, he's so pompous.
The other thing that from a psychological standpoint, one of the things.
Keep your nasty tongue in your head. What is that? Why do you stab your tongue outward like you're a snake, or worse, one of those Gila monster lizards? Ugh, quit. Keep your tongue in your damn mouth. That is weird.
People say all the time to me, if we're talking about Delphi, is, well, Richard Allen doesn't have a criminal record.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
fact.
what I talk about. That's
That's
a seed of doubt right there.
That's a
No
fact.
criminal record. We have talked to people. They say, well, he had no criminal record. You're telling me a man in his 40s would just
No.
go
So I
out and
think it's-
juice this without a criminal record?
Right. He's
Mark this. That is 100% factual. Of all the stuff that you've heard in this video, that is fact. 40-year-old guy. What is he? He is a pharmacy technician. Now that's where the worst criminals hide, in the damn pharmacy, serving the public, smiling, handing you your little bag of goodies. Good afternoon. I hope you have a good night. I'm sorry, Miss Evans. I hope you get feeling better. I think this medication ought to help your child pretty good, Mr. Johnson. Y'all have a good night. Here. Do you think little Johnny would like a sucker? Do you think he wants a green one or a yellow one? Yeah, those are the hardened criminals right there, lurking and hiding in your local pharmacy. There's your child killers in the pharmacy.
had no criminal record. He's had no past history of abuse. He's had no past history of crime or criminality.
No
Right,
violence.
like the question people ask me, and by the way, like there have been documentaries made about this particular, about Delphi, the Delphi murders, where professional psych.
You know what? It should, since you referred to Greek mythology in the beginning of this video, I think it's pronounced Delphi.
Psychologists, forensic psychologists like myself, have made statements to that effect. They have said things like, well, Richard Allen doesn't have a criminal record. He has no history of violence. Ron Logan does. So I think Ron Logan's a better case.
There is literally nothing about Richard Allen that satisfies the profile of what happened to Abby and Libby. That's the truth. And the FBI agents that worked the case said so. He reached out to the cops and said, I was there. I didn't see 2 girls, but I did see 3 girls, and here's where I saw them. Here's where I was walking when I saw them. Why were you there? I wanted to walk up on the bridge and look at the fish. Remember that.
Candidate for the perpetrator. Or they'll say he has no history of violence,
Right.
therefore he couldn't have been violent. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's do, John. I'm ready, buddy. Let's do it.
So
Yeah.
it's because it's really important.
It is.
It is. And
Um,
again, for those of you that have not heard our backstory and you don't know maybe who Ron Logan is, go watch it after this and you'll understand everything. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you want to know the truth, Lauren? Ron Logan, as an old man, unlikely to have done this, but he was very good friends with a young man who 100% woulda and coulda done it. Oh yeah, and his best friend looked like the second drawing.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Ron Logan.
Okay, so here's the question. Is it possible to have someone commit such a violent crime with no previous history of violence? And the answer is yes. These are called out of the blue killings. You see them.
Isn't that interesting? These are called out of the blue killings. And even though I'm a psychologist, I don't need any statistics to tell me when something is out of the blue. Oh my God, John, stop.
Mostly in cases of domestic violence. They're less common in cases involving children.
Less common.
And one of the reasons that
You just got finished telling us that if there's a child who is killed, that it's going to be an act of sexual assault. Now you're talking about something even less rare. Come on, you just grab stuff out of the air. You don't need. There's no logic. There's no wisdom behind what you say. There's no empirical support. It's just an amalgamation of convenience, John. You just weave a tale that you can sort of like say something that you believe sounds profound. And for people that are listening closely to the details, they're just left scratching their head.
True, by the way, is because there just aren't enough statistics on these types of homicides. So, and there's way more data on interpersonal violence where men with no previous histories whatsoever, typically men with no previous histories of violence, will, for whatever reason, used to be that they would snap and murder their spouses or significant others. That's changed over time, by the way, with more research. But
now, what you just heard, and I'm going to try to go back to the point that he said it. I think it was at 30. He's gonna flip the narrative on you, but he's gonna do it like in one prolonged sentence, like a complex compound sentence. He's gonna blend it all together in a single sentence, so you're not really gonna notice that he's doing it unless you're listening for the details, right? He starts out the sentence and he's talking about sexual assault, killing on a child. But listen closely, because we're talking about, or when he is talking about sexual assault on a child, homicide, that is different, profoundly different than IPV. IPV being just interpersonal violence, that in some personal relationship you have, family, friend, whatever, that there is then violence in that relationship. Understand? So the first part of the sentence is going to be about the killing of a child who's been sexually assaulted by a stranger. Remember, the statistics he used at the very beginning of this from the UK quoted 3 murders out of, was it 11 or 12? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, no, maybe it was 8 or 9. Anyway, in the beginning, he used statistics from the UK, and he said out of all these murders, 6 died in terrorism attacks, 4 died in house fires, 3 died in another way, and I don't remember what it was. And then 3 died. There were 2 that were 3, and then 4 is 10. So 3 out of 16 died from stranger murders with sexual intent or sexual assault. That's what he's talking about. So he's talking about the death, the murders of Abby and Libby as targets, or the motivation was sexual assault, and they were killed during the commission of sexual assault. In the same sentence, he flips the script to IPV, interpersonal violence, violence in the family, a husband against a wife, or a wife against a child, their own child, right? So listen to it. Pretty slick, Jonathan.
On these types of homicides. So, and there's way more data on interpersonal violence where men with no previous histories whatsoever, typically men with no previous history, men on these types of homicides aren't involving children. The blue killings. You see them mostly in cases of domestic violence. They're less common in cases involving children. And one of the reasons that's true, by the way, is because there just aren't enough statistics
now listen.
on these types of homicides.
Yeah,
so, and there's way more data on interpersonal violence where
way more data on IPV. So he starts out, he's saying we don't really have enough statistics on stranger murders of children who are being sexually assaulted as the motivating factor. We don't have enough, but we got way more statistics on IPV. So I'm going to talk about IPV. Doesn't matter that there's no continuity to my argument, much less applying to my original argument. I just want to talk about something that sounds good. I want to be profound, damn it.
Men with no previous histories whatsoever, typically men with no previous histories of violence, will, for whatever reasons, the perception used to be that they would snap and murder their spouses or significant others. That's changed over time, by the way.
So we go from the very exceptionally rare stranger murder of a child motivated by sexual assault. We go from that to husbands who snap and kill their wives. And he does it in one sentence. So you don't notice it. You think he's still talking about applicability, extrapolation, analogy to Abby and Libby. No. He's that train left the building, folks. You're going to have to keep up with old John here. He's now just talking about good old-fashioned domestic assault. Why does that have anything to do with the price of eggs in China, John? You're the one who's saying Abby and Libby were killed by a stranger. Now you're giving us statistics. You're talking about themes and theories that align with interfamily murder, homicide, abuse, assault.
More research, but I'm going to read, this is from an article, so talking about out of the blue killings. This is an article called, probably can't see that.
No,
it's
put it
called
right by your mic, focusing on your
my
mic.
focus by my mic. Yeah, there you go. It's going to pick up the mic. It's called Out of the Blue, Men Who Murder an Intimate Partner. It's by Dobash and Dobash.
Why? I'm so weary, John. This is why I don't listen to y'all's channel. I'm so weary. Why are you now talking about men who murder their wives? What does that have to do? Abby was not married. Libby was not married. How does this apply to your argument? Good heavens.
The Dobashes happen to be some researchers in the UK who have done some phenomenal research on these types of murders and domestic violence in general. But
hang on for the ride.
I want to read what they say about these types of murders. So they looked at two groups. They looked at what they called the no convict group, meaning these are men that have no history of criminality, and they had another group called the previous convict group, or the Prev convict group. So they looked at two groups, and they wanted to know the differences. Here's what they say: the infliction of numerous injuries while in a state of anger or rage might suggest that the no convict men just snapped due to some unusual set of circumstances and committed a, quote, sudden homicide. However, the snap thesis is not supported. Nearly 3/4 of these men had ongoing disputes within their relationships prior to the murder event, and there was very little difference between the two groups in terms of risky issues of jealousy, possessiveness, and/or separation. Importantly, nearly half of the no convict group had previously used violence towards the victim, although they initially appeared to have no history of this offense. And this is the critical line here. This is the
Oh, he's so
the
proud
grand
of himself.
finale.
Look how proud he is.
The
Okay.
finding that nearly half of these men had previously committed at least one act of violence against the women they kill, although this violence had gone unreported or undetected, means that they might be more accurately described as, quote, abuser turned murderer.
Are you impressed, Lauren? He's looking up, he's checking in with you to see if you were properly astonished. Now, John, excuse me, I know that I'm a little small-minded and stupid and all. What are we talking about? I thought we were talking about Abby and Libby and your contention that they were murdered by a stranger who was a pedophile. Isn't that right? How does this have anything to do with the topic of your video? We know that people whose husbands kill them were probably previously abused by them as well. We know that. What does this have to do with a stranger murder by a pedophile? Wow, I'm so excited to make a live. Okay, contain yourself, Bonnie. It'll be okay, honey.
This is really important. And the reason it's important is because men, or let's say people in general who commit crimes, in this particular case, it applies to domestic violence, but in these crimes, and this would include children, where
Why?
homicide appears to occur out of
Why does this involve children? Why, in what way are you making that premise? Like, you've provided nothing that would say what the thought that you're fixing to give is true, not only of adult homicide victims, but also child homicide victims, because you're not talking about that. You're reading about domestic violence between a husband and a wife.
nowhere, with no previous history of violence. The fact of the matter is that in most of these cases, there has been previous abuse. It just hasn't been reported. We're not aware of it.
So what you're saying then is that Richard Allen previously assaulted Abby and Libby, and then they didn't tell anyone, so he came back to do it again. Is that what you're saying is that nonsensical, John?
So what happens when there's no previous history of violence? You get, quote, abusers turned murderers, unquote.
Dun, dun, dun. This is so hard to listen to.
That's really important. You
No,
might
it's
be
not.
saying, how does this apply to?
No, it's not important. It makes no sense. Has zero applicability. It's even worse than your UK statistics. He's even going to laugh. He's going to laugh because he knows I'm right. Watch him laugh when he says it. Watch him.
That's really important. You might be saying, how does this apply to Richard Allen? All right, I'm going to.
Yeah. How does it apply, Jonathan? Mr. Batman? The Batman is going to like laugh in our faces as he prepares to spew more nonsense. I ask you, John, if you tried to present something like this in front of the APA, like at a convention, would you expect people to call you out on it and go, what is this bullshit you're spewing? Of course you would expect it. You're laughing. You know, before you ever say it, that you're full of shit. You know you are.
Tell you right now.
Okay, listening.
As far as I know, nobody has really talked about this, so this is important. Officers, this is from a report by Fox 59 in Indiana, November 1st, 2022.
Get ready,
is-
y'all.
shortly after he was arrested. Officers with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office were sent at around 3:30 a.m. on June 18th of 2015 to the home of Richard and Kathy Allen, according to records obtained by Fox 59. Sheriff Toby Leansby said Allen,
Lesenby.
a dad of one and a CVS technician, was allegedly drunk, and his wife took him to the hospital for a medical evaluation.
Okay.
According to the sheriff, responding deputies' role during the incident was to, quote, keep the peace,
Yeah.
and no arrests or charges followed.
Yeah. He's drunk, John. His drunk ass was making a spectacle. But did he hit anyone? Did he threaten to hit anyone? Was he harming people? Or was he drunk and his wife was worried about him?
Local sheriff's deputies responded to the home of accused killer Richard Allen over, quote, a domestic incident.
What? A domestic incident. That's not exactly the same thing as domestic assault, is it? A domestic incident. I'm curious, Jonathan. You're Batman and all. Did it occur to you that Batman may need to know the proper vocabulary and semantics? What exactly does it mean on a police report in Indiana when a police officer writes domestic incident instead of the more familiar domestic disturbance or domestic violence incident? Did you look that up? Did you think about that at all? The calls that come in to the police call center, 911, anyone that is involved with like conflict, a disturbance between people who have some kind of personal or family relationship, they're called domestic incidents, domestic violence incidents, or domestic disturbance. Right? That would be verbal arguments and yelling, or threats, or physical altercations or violence, or property damage, or, oh, ding, 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 concerns about someone's safety due to intoxication or mental health crisis. That's right, John. Words matter. You are a psychologist, a researcher, and you seem to have forgotten that words matter. Not every domestic incident results in an arrest or charge because they don't involve assault or violence. They could have been a domestic incident where one party is concerned about the other party, or where a spouse is concerned about their spouse because of intoxication or mental health crisis. Those are domestic incidents. Threats, violence, assault, those are domestic violence incidents in Indiana. Check my facts. Police often use the term domestic incident in Indiana for non-violent situations because the calls are rather unpredictable, and they usually suggest heightened increases in emotions or risk. So police in Indiana use standard police language, quotation marks, to keep the peace. That means to calm the situation, separate the two spouses or two parties if needed, prevent it from escalating. In no way does a domestic incident that was performed to keep the peace in Indiana, in no way does it suggest that violence was involved. I don't know. It's pretty clear to me. Are you having trouble with it, John? There are specific protocols for domestic calls. The calls come in, domestic incident, immediately dispatch starts checking for prior incidents, prior calls to that address. If there's been a prior history of assault or threats with no violence, then the officers err on the side of caution, and they treat it like it's a domestic violence incident. But if there's nothing to suggest that there's been a history of threats, then they just say, hey, this is a guy who's had too much to drink, or he's having a mental health problem, and the wife or the husband needed a little help to calm things down. Everything's good now. Everything's fine. So in this incident that John is talking about, 2015, this was a situation where Richard Allen was drunk. His wife called the police and said, I need some help with him. He's being erratic. He's being goofy. If I remember correctly, I think he was like suggesting self-harm, I think. Guess what ended up happening in this situation? The police released Richard Allen to his wife with the direction to take him to the hospital. Yeah, you heard me right. The police, during a domestic incident that was carried out to keep the peace, police said, why don't you just take him up to the hospital, let a therapist, a psychologist, or psychiatrist evaluate him, make sure that he's not a danger to himself, and they can give him some medicine, make him feel better. And then he was released into Kathy's care, and notably, that is exactly what she did. She put him in the car. She drove her husband to the hospital where they did an evaluation on him, and he was determined not to be a danger to himself or anyone else, and they went home. Think about that. This is standard law enforcement practice. We saw in the case of Gabby Petito, now the cops were stupid, but we did see them enact the standard protocol when there are threats or there are reports of contact. You separate the two people for 24 hours, maybe it's 48 hours. But anyway, the cops have to separate you. One of you has to go to a hotel or a shelter, the other one has to go home, right? They did that. They would have done exactly the same thing with Richard Allen and Kathy, and they did not. There's literally nothing in the phone calls, the 911 calls, the police body cam. There's literally no suggestion at all that there was the slightest bit of violence or intended violence or even something like a threat. The words that were used were very clear, and they have meaning to the cops. No violence on the horizon, John. And if you had any kind of respect for the truth, you would have easily been able to find out what those terms and words mean to officers in Indiana, because they all go through the same standard training. When there is the possibility of threats or prior contact, the policy is very clear. Number one, separate the parties immediately for safety. Immediately. One of them goes in the house, one of them goes and sits in the back of the police car. And then you take you take their statements. You determine if there is a primary aggressor or not. And if there is, you arrest them on the spot for what? Probable cause. Unless you can see damage, and then you get them with a DV related crime. Guess what the next step is? Protect and support the victim. Let me ask you, how exactly is this support going to work in John Matthias's world? If what we're going to do is, as police officers, we're going to take the perpetrator of violence and we're going to tell the victim of the perpetrator, you have to take him and you have to drive him to the hospital where he may get really pissed off because you've taken him to the hospital, and you have to stay there with him and then take him home. What? So he can beat the shit out of you again? What kind of world do you live in, John? You protect and support the victim. You arrange transportation for the victim and possible dependents. You take the victim to a medical facility, shelter, or a safe location. Officers stand by. Officers call EMS. Officers call for an ambulance, or officers transport the victims themselves. You know what they don't do, John? They don't order the victim to take her abuser to the hospital. That's what they don't do. It's just incredible. Handling transport duties of a perpetrator falls on the responsibility of the police officers and or EMS if there are injuries to the perpetrator. Period. It's just astonishing that you put this nonsense out to that channel. It's astonishing that your channel members are believing this horse shit. Excuse me, that's the Texas coming out in me. I'm sorry. There are simply no credible policies or Indiana police practices that support the statements of John Matthias. It's not there. The victim never is given responsibility over the perpetrator. Now, here's another question. Can someone be sued if there's a police officer who orders me to take my perpetrator husband or son or whoever it happens to be to the hospital after I have called for assistance because my drunk husband or drunk family member is threatening to hurt me, or in fact has already at some point now or in the past physically held me down, grabbed my wrist, threw me up against a wall, slapped me, pushed me, anytime in the past, then it is the responsibility of the police to take me and any children into protective care and either transport us to the hospital or to a safe location as they arrest the perpetrator. If a cop does that in Indiana, if there is a dumb police officer who does that, I can sue the state of Indiana. I can walk away a millionaire. State tort claims would include negligence or failure to protect. That's just the most basic. There would be many, many, many more charges that could apply, but the overriding charge, negligence or failure to protect. Right there, right off the bat. Or how about this one? Constitutional federal law, 42 USC 1983. This has to do with substantive due process or equal protection violations for deliberate indifference to known risks in a domestic violence situation. There's literally a law, John, federal. Or how about this one? We might get our attorney to just do department-wide failure to adequately train and supervise our law enforcement. It's called a Monell claim. It's actually got a name, John, like the Tarasoff decision. This is the Monell claim. But that's not going to stop you. Nope, that's not going to stop old John. John's on the case. Everybody get ready for the bullshit, the horse shit that you're about to hear now.
Why is this important?
Yeah, why?
Because this is precisely the sort of thing you see with so-called out of the blue killers.
Okay.
What's important here is that there was no arrest, there were no charges, so all of this disappeared. If they had arrested him
Yeah.
and charged him,
Yeah.
he would have a criminal record.
Yeah.
The reason he doesn't is because the deputies, the officers who responded to this call, they thought it was minor and not worthy of their attention. They recommended that Kathy, Alan's wife, take him to the hospital for medical evaluation because he was deeply inebriated. What was the level of violence? We don't know.
Yes, we do. How do we know? Because words matter, John. Frankly, I would think that your real journalist wife would tell you that. Words matter. A domestic incident could be called for mental health. I could call police and ask for assistance and say, please come. My child is very, very depressed and is threatening to hurt themselves. I need your help. We need some support here. That it would not get him arrested for violence. You understand? This is why I don't listen to them, y'all. This is why I don't listen.
How bad was it? How violent was he? We don't know.
He wasn't. Yes, we do know. Because had he been violent, number one, there would have been a mandatory arrest. Had there been suggestion that he was violent sometime in the past, they would have taken that and matched it up with what Kathy's complaints were in the here and now and would have made a decision on whether this was a domestic violence incident. John, what do you think? You think that police officers just run around doing what you do, flying by the seat of your pants? You think that's how it works? No. They go through training. They have a protocol that they have to follow. And you being the preeminent forensic psychologist, I would think you would know that and appreciate that. Don't you do testing? Don't you know anything about like following the rules? There was no violence. In fact, the one fact that absolutely reflects beyond a shadow of a doubt this was not a domestic violence incident is the fact that they told Kathy to take him to the hospital for help. Something that would never happen in a domestic violence situation because they could get the entire state sued, or they themselves could get federal charges. Hidden gems. What are you doing listening to this?
Was significant enough that somebody in that home, somebody in the Allen home, called the police for help.
Did you hear that?
Call-
Listen, listen.
That somebody in that home, somebody in the Allen home,
Oh, sorry.
violent violence, we don't know. Hospital for medical evaluation because he was deeply inebriated.
Now listen to this.
What was the level of violence?
The
We don't
level
know.
of violence. Listen.
How bad was it? How violent was he? We
Yeah.
don't know. We
How
know it
violent?
was significant enough that somebody in that home, somebody in the Allen home, called the police for help.
How violent was Richard Allen? It was violent enough that someone in that house called for assistance. Kathy Allen ought to sue the pants off of you. That statement you made is flat out 100% false. John, I'm sorry. You are fake news.
So does Richard Allen,
Boom. There you
No,
go.
no,
does
Lauren.
Richard Allen,
No, Lauren. It's not boom. No, it's bullshit. It's not boom. It's bull. That's it. That's what it's not boom. It's not a mic drop. It's not a moment of great insight. It's categorically and factually wrong. It's manipulation. He jumps all over the place. He uses references that are either archaic or they're just flat out non-representative. He just, if you could go up to Alaska and you could get some kind of research project on violence on the Inuit Eskimos up in Alaska and then come down and apply that to a bunch of damn rednecks on Friday night that were drunk off their asses on Lone Star beer. It would teach you nothing about what those rednecks were doing. There's no boom here, Lauren. There's people that are listening to the details, to the facts that the words that he's using. You're all being misled. He's just misleading you.
Allen fit the profile of a quote abuser turned murderer?
Why?
I don't know.
Why? Why are we calling him an abuser turned murderer? Like, why are we even going to do that, John?
We have this incident of domestic violence. And by the way, when you have one incident,
now it's a full-blown incident of domestic violence. It's an incident of domestic violence, guys. If this, and I don't know the answer, okay? If this was put into evidence during this trial, that's grounds to overturn the conviction against Richard Allen. It's too prejudicial, and it lacks. There's nothing factual that says that phone call for help was actually a phone call for violence. They told Kathy to take her very drunk husband to the ER. When they themselves, if they had believed that he could have been dangerous or violent or out of his head, they could have called an ambulance, or they could have put him in the police car and driven him to the hospital. They could have ordered him to stay away from the family home for 24 hours. They could have transported Kathy and her daughter to a hotel room for the night. Literally nothing on the facts of the incident say This had to do with violence. Kathy has already come out and said he was depressed. He was depressed and he was talking about hurting himself. That's why she called for help. She wasn't worried that she would be hurt. She wasn't worried that her daughter would be hurt. She was worried that the man that she loved would hurt and harm himself. The very nefarious, evil pharmacy technician. It's just, this is so unethical. It's so, our ethics code is very clear. Not only are we to consider that we don't cause harm to others, right? But also there's this level that that your actions, your behavior not reflect poorly on the profession in general. You don't ever want to be in a position where you behave in such a way that people that are watching, they go, oh, if this is the way that psychologists act, I don't think I ever want to trust a psychologist. Because if you do that, if your behavior is so egregious that it causes other people to lose trust in the profession of mental health treatment or psychiatry or psychology, then you're running the risk of hurting someone who could really benefit from that help, whether it's medication, whether it's therapy, whether it's even like something like teaching parents how to use positive reinforcement rather than just punishment. There's so many different ways that the knowledge that we have about behaviorism and other things, there's so many different ways that people can benefit from the work of psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health experts. There's so many different ways. Like, for example, did you know that people that have like anxiety problems, do you know they're afraid to take the medication that would actually treat the foundation of the anxiety problem? But because of the anxiety, they tell themselves, oh, I better not take it. I'm going to have a reaction, or I'm going to overdose, or I'm going to get addicted, or I'm going to go crazy. That is the anxiety disorder. Their own mind writing stories that are just inaccurate to the point that it scares them away from pursuing proper treatment. So a big part of what some psychologists do is just educating people. Here's what your medicine does. Here are the effects. When you take your anxiety medication, you are not going to lose control. It's not going to make you fall asleep. It's not going to make you think weird thoughts. You're not going to lose control of your body. We try to increase their confidence and try to teach them, ignore the storyteller in your mind. Ignore the crystal ball that's telling you that there's a disaster movie on the horizon and you're going to be the heroine. That's not true. There's no disaster movie. You're going to be fine. You're okay. And you need to learn to focus on the facts of the situation and don't embrace the storyteller who wants to put you in the middle of a disaster movie. Don't do that. Resist that urge. Oh my gosh. Y'all should have seen during the whole COVID debacle. Poor people really believed that it was Captain Trips. It was the end of the world, that all of mankind would be wiped out by the superbug. It's terrible. We saw drug and alcohol use skyrocket, domestic violence, real domestic violence incidents. Just in Houston, the emergency rooms were inundated with the domestic violence episodes, injuries, all from anxiety. What are we living through? How can they shut down our economy? I'm losing my business. My tenants of my rental properties, they're not paying me. How am I going to buy my own food? It was horrible. And a lot of people turned to bottles of alcohol and marijuana and loads of prescription pills. It was really bad, y'all. I suspect that there were many more people in the greater Houston area, and I'm talking about firsthand knowledge here, okay? I suspect, it's my guess, that during the COVID shutdowns, there were more people harmed as a result of anxiety and fear than from the actual illness, because people were terrified. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know what was happening to them. And they turned to those primary compensatory behaviors, the alcohol, the beatings, the depression. It bubbled to the top in a very sad way. I made the joke one day. Can we do a Super Bowl? Can they please have a game that is going to be like the new Super Bowl? Why? Because, during the Super Bowl, there's a low incident of domestic violence incidents. People are watching the Super Bowl. Now, after the Super Bowl is over, then you do get an uptick. But it just got to be so that you weren't getting. There were not so many injuries from car accidents because everybody was at home. Nobody was out, right? The freeways were clear. I jump in my little GT convertible and get out on the freeway, and I was down at the medical center at the hospital in 30 minutes compared to usually it's like an hour and 15 or hour 20 minutes, right? With the traffic. No traffic. It was eerie. I told my husband, this is great, man. Not only is there no traffic, I'm driving like hell. It was very strange. And people were the unknown was the biggest monster that we were all dealing with. The unknown. So this video has been really hard for me to not only watch the first time, but then trying to deliver this information in a way that, isn't too preachy. I'm not acting in the capacity of psychologist here. I'm just your friend on YouTube. You know how Peter Tragus is the lawyer, That's what I want to be. I just want to have a friend who's a psychologist. That's all I want to be. I don't want to be preachy. I don't want to come with, prepared critiques of other YouTubers' work. I don't like this. But this is, in fact, the reason that I don't watch them. It's exhausting to watch them if you are informed and you are an ethical person. You know your ethics code. Of justification. How is this happening? Where's the self-respect? Does he recognize what he's presenting? Misleading people. It's like when he thinks that he's made a really good point, or if maybe it's duping delight, right? Chase Hughes. Maybe this is the real deal, real duping delight. We heard him laugh when we're realizing he's totally full of shit. Is that why he was laughing? Because he knows he's full of shit? This is the real world duping delight? And then never forget, this is for you, Dreadful Penny. Love your channel. Everybody, if you haven't watched Dreadful Penny, please go to her channel. Give her a follow. She's amazing. Andy Kopsa, same. Okay. She bring her receipts. I've also really enjoyed listening to Allegedly Speculating, Allegedly Krama, I think it is. She does really good reporting, bringing the facts. And yeah, she does do some of the Krama drama, but boy, she does bring the facts. Okay. Need that. This we don't need, y'all. It's wrong. It's unfair. Here's one reason. Okay, let me tell you this. Families, let's see how I want to approach this because I'm off script in case you haven't noticed. It is not just the victims or the families of victims that become collateral damage to these abusers and criminals, and collateral damage can happen to many people. You can even get collateral damage if you are let's say there's a police officer who responds to the Gabby Petito situation. And the police officer says, oh, well, my crazy girlfriend used to take a medication, and then she was the sweet, sexy little thing that, women are supposed to be. And you ought to get your girlfriend on the same, pills that my girlfriend is on. Remember that? That's something along those lines, right? In the police body cam. I want you to take that and imagine that you're the girlfriend or the ex-girlfriend of the police officer. Now you're listening to this video because the whole world saw it. Everybody fell in love with Gabby Petito. Everybody wanted to protect that young lady. And everybody hated that damn cop. Well, some didn't. Some thought he was great because he was a cop. They weren't questioning whether he, followed protocol. I stood up and said, wait just a damn minute, and lost subscribers. People got mad at me because I went against the cops. Hold the blue line is what they say. I'm like, yeah, I'm a blue line kind of girl, but hold on a minute. Why in the hell is the victim being removed from her safe RV, and the little piece of shit that's beating on her is being treated like the little king? Why are we doing that, you little misogynistic jerk? Right? So if you are the girlfriend of this police officer or the ex-girlfriend, your boyfriend is now on NBC Nightly News, Fox News, CNN, whatever. And everybody in the United States of America is watching this encounter where your boyfriend is referencing you. Now, does Dr. Jules in Texas, does she know who the cop's girlfriend is? No, absolutely not. He didn't use her name. But what about the people in that small town? The people in the small town exactly know who all that cop has dated. And those of you that live in small towns, I'm right about that, right? I mean, you even know in some small towns, you even know who the mayor of the town is having affairs with, or who his wife is having affairs with. That's the joy of living in a small town, right? Everybody knows your business. So be careful. If you're that woman and he is now being seen on NBC or CNN or whatever saying, well, my crazy girlfriend or my crazy ex-girlfriend, she started taking these pills and turned back into the sexy little nymphette that she's supposed to act like. Now what do you do as the woman who's being referred to toward a domestic abuser as the crazy girlfriend? Well, if you're still with the cop, you're probably packing your bags and getting ready to call him an asshole and move out. That's probably what happens. But even if you're the ex-girlfriend What if your current boyfriend says, "Is that you? Is he talking about you?" Or were you crazy? Did you kind of upset the apple cart? Did you kind of like lose your grip for a while? Like, what's he referring to? Were you abusive? Did you hit him? Would you hit our children? Now you've got a woman out there in the world who's done absolutely nothing wrong, but because of a misogynistic boyfriend and an unprincipled mainstream media is broadcasting that you are a crazy girlfriend that needed pills to not be abusive. A mess, right? An absolute mess. What about just going to a party and everybody starts calling you, "Oh, here comes crazy. Everybody watch out. Get your pills ready so we don't lose a grip on old crazy girl." Collateral damage. It doesn't have to come in the form of knives and blood. Collateral damage is all over the place. There has to be responsibility when someone who has undergone years of formal training for ethics, understanding the laws of the state in which you are licensed. There is an obligation to put out factual information if you are operating, let's say, under the umbrella of your professional training or licensing. And that is what he's doing here. The constant refrain, my licensed forensic psychologist husband. He's an expert. He knows things. You just sit down and shut up because he is an expert. Okay, John, your wife just pulled out your license. You are now bound by the laws of your state that has licensed you and the APA Code of Ethics. Right? How many times in this video, this one video alone, we didn't even do the entire video, this one little snippet that we took, how many ethics violations are there, John? Why is there smugness? Like, why are you smug? Are you being smug because you're managing to bastardize the facts? I'll take a little fact over here. Oh, I'll need this little fact right here. Let's see, I need one more fact right here. Got my 3 little facts. Now I got to weave them together into something that looks like a factual statement, but in truth, for those of us that are paying attention, we realize you are misapplying. You are using non-representational samples to make a statement about an entire population, and then you're taking that inaccurate population statement to apply to a very specific crime scenario. And then when you get ready to connect that crime scenario, the murder of a child, to Richard Allen specifically, now you're using an incident where the wife called for help because her husband was very depressed and she was afraid he was going to hurt himself. And you use that as the justification. This is a man who is, in fact, an abuser who has turned murderer. And yet you laugh, you literally cackle when the suggestion is made, Odinism. This could have been some sort of religious observance, like a type of sacrifice. You laughed about that. When there's literally more evidence of that than the nonsense that you just wove here. You have an ethical obligation to the general public. You really need to get your APA Code of Ethics out. You need to read through it, and you're missing the boat here, John. You have an obligation to the greater public if you are operating with the credentials that you hold. I'm a psychologist. That makes me an expert. You should listen to me. Right there, your APA Code of Ethics has kicked in, big dog. Now, your wife is not governed by any of it. She can say and do whatever she wants to. That's not true of you if you invoke your license or even the fact that you're a PhD in psychology. You now have an obligation.
Of domestic violence.
Check me on that. Check me on that. See if I'm telling the truth. I know where my safety limitations are. Me and my attorneys, we are on speaking terms. Before I make a step that I'm going to be worried about, I make a phone call. Hey, Michael. Yeah, here's what I'm thinking about doing. Is that okay? Yeah, absolutely. Have a great time. Or, oh my God, if you do that, here's what you got to be careful of. And 9 times out of 10, if I get that response, here's what you're going to have to watch for. Here's what you're going to have to be careful about. Right there, that is my sign that says, nope, not doing this. Not even going to flirt with the possibility that there will be a questionable violation. Not going to do it. Absolutely not going to do it. Hey, Callie, no.
It suggests there's strife.
I don't know if you guys can hear that dog, but that is a literal bully pit bull dog. Callie, no. Hey, stop. My cat is taunting Callie. Callie's the kind of dog that if you're about to get robbed, people go, no. But she is sweet. Callie, no, stop barking. No, stop. Peach. Okay, I'm going to make my cat move so she'll quit barking.
And turmoil in that home that we have no idea about. It probably runs a lot deeper than we're aware of. Because
I mean,
for the police to respond to a domestic call, it takes a fairly significant incident. I would love to know what that is.
What did he say? Hold on, I'm going backwards.
It suggests there's strife and turmoil in that home that we have no idea about. It probably runs a lot deeper than we're aware of. Because
you know what, John? Here's the reality, Mr. Licensed clinical psychologist, which isn't a real title. You're either a clinical psychologist or a licensed psychologist. You don't need to add a whole bunch of damn words together. You have nomenclature that you should have been educated on how to properly title yourself, both to the public and also to hospitals where you're working. Yeah. So he says that, this phone call that was made that resulted in Kathy driving her husband to the hospital, that suggests strife in the home, and that we don't know how deep it runs or how extreme it is. Now, remember, he's made the case that it's violence against his wife or violence against his daughter, right? He's making the case that Richard Allen is a a domestic abuser. The history is dramatically different. The history is that Richard Allen is a man who had a long history of depression and alcohol, not alcohol, depression and anxiety. He had a long history of it. He got treatment for it. He went on and completed his education and had been very successful at his job for many years. None of it matches the profile of what John is trying to convince you of. It's actually the exact opposite. The phone call that night indicates the period of time that was explained to the cops that yeah, he went through a period where he was really, really depressed. Not that he was hurting his daughter or his wife or even threatening to hurt them. Right? This is just so unethical.
For the police to respond to a domestic call, it takes a fairly significant incident. I would
No, it doesn't, John. What are you even saying? People call the cops all the time to get help. How about this one, John? I'm sure this is one that you're familiar with, given your background in history. What about a kid? Let's say a kid who's 13, 14, 15 years old, and they're drinking or they're using marijuana or something like that, and they get mad. And so they're screaming and yelling at mom and dad, and dad's trying to, manhandle the kid and get them under control because they're drunk. Mom calls the cops and says, "We need help. My teenage son and my husband are arguing with each other. Please send help." That definitely gets a response. And very often, the result is, because the teenager is so angry, because he's illegally using substances, he gets transported to either the hospital or some kind of treatment facility. And that's where someone like you, supposedly, is supposed to step in and do a well-informed evaluation. You don't get to just make up your facts, John. And as someone who is making a living off of testing, you claim that your entire work is court-ordered evaluation, and I have some serious questions about that. Your stories don't seem to match what I know and what happens when I get requested to do an evaluation. I'm not saying that you're lying about it. I'm just saying it seems a little strange to me. Doesn't match what I know to be true, I guess, in Texas, I guess you could say. But there are plenty of situations where the police are called for help and there's no domestic violence. And that's not what you're telling the hidden gems.
love to know what that is. Unfortunately, there's no paperwork because he was never arrested.
Yeah, because he wasn't a danger. That's why he wasn't arrested, John. The man was described as a pacifist. And I don't know what was presented in a court of law, and it's up to the jury to make those determinations. And I respect the jury. They made the decision. They felt matched the evidence that was presented. But what you're talking about in this video is just wrong. It's just wrong. Sorry, but it is. And that silly prison psychologist, Gray Hughes, president of the Gray Hughes fan club, I don't know why she didn't lose her license. Well, maybe she did lose her license. Maybe that's something I'll do next, is try to get some update on her. Does she still work with the prison system? Was she able to retain her license? Does she work now? Or, is she driving an ice cream truck? But okay, I'm done. Finished. Y'all see why I don't watch them, right? You see this? Because I'm responsible, a responsible human being. And I say, I don't want to watch them because when I listen to him, I feel like I need to interact. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. And it's exhausting. So I don't listen. I just don't listen. I go over to the lab and listen to Josh.
The only person who would tell us what happened would be Kathy, and I'm pretty sure she's not going to tell us. So, but
now you're calling the alleged victim of the non-existent domestic violence episode. Now you're calling her a liar. John, have you no shame at all? Like, what's happening here? Are you just feeling like you're in your big boy pants because you got all these hidden gems worshiping you, and you've managed to make a pretend story up with pretend statistics and pretend facts and bullshit suppositions? You're just like excited to be in your big boy pants, right? It's just incredible. Don't call Kathy a liar. She's been through enough. Her daughter's been through enough. Don't do that.
The fact that police went to that home indicates that there was previous abuse, even though it wasn't charged.
No, it does not.
And
it indicates Kathy needed help. That's all. That's all it indicates, John. Can you guys believe the hubris that this guy has to say now he's at the point that he's outwardly saying, when there was an act of violence and it wasn't charged. Did you hear that? So we've called Kathy a liar for literally no reason. like there's not a single episode that would show evidence that she in fact lies. But Kathy's a liar. The police are unethical. The ones that investigated, that showed up for the call and made the decision that nobody was in danger and that Kathy could take her husband to the hospital and feel better, right? Those police were stupid, or you're welcome, Retha. Those police were stupid or liars, unethical, incompetent, unable to do their job properly, not following Indiana state law. We also have to call the state police investigators. We got to call them liars, okay? They were also incompetent and liars, according to John's theory, because the state police on the witness stand said there's no evidence of sexual assault. So they're incompetent too. In order for John to tell this tale to Hidden Potatoes, we got to call every police officer in Indiana incompetent, stupid, immoral, don't know how to do their job, lackadaisical, under the influence themselves. Maybe they themselves were abusers, and so they were acting to protect Richard Allen, their fellow domestic abuser friend. Think about the number of people that he's just poked their eyes out. Think about it. The hidden true, what is it? Hidden gems. The hidden gems listen to this and they believe it. They don't even believe when people say, look, here's your police body cam. This will show you evidence that Lauren and John literally tried to have an innocent woman thrown in jail. And the reason that they wanted to throw her in jail, I'm talking about Christina Mack, the reason they wanted to throw her in jail is because they were scared that she was going to publicly tell the truth about Lauren Matthias's character and honesty. They were willing to put an innocent lady in jail. Think about that. And the hidden gems refused to go watch the video, the police body cam. They refused. They said, they put their hands over their eyes and they said, no, 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 no. I want to believe in my queen. I cannot tolerate the idea that I have given my money, my time, my loyalty to people that may not be the wonderful victim advocates that I have convinced myself that they are. They just covered their eyes and said, nope, not real. Not going to watch it. Don't want to know the truth. Please leave me alone so I can live forever happy in my ignorance as a hidden potato. Right? Well, yeah, Junebug is awesome because Junebug had the integrity to educate herself and go in search of real information, not fake, false AI stuff, but actual police body cam and other things. And she had a recognition that she had been misled, along with many of us, Junebug. You were not by far the only one. Trust me. Trust me. Me and Kresha both were in the live during that ridiculous 9-hour live where she slandered so many different people without an ounce of evidence. And she lied on a judge. And we were like, it's okay, Lauren. It'll be okay. Calm down. You'll be okay. You've got lots of support. People care about you. And then we started watching the police body cam and we were like, oh my God, how can this be real? And yet it is. It is real. And you have 300,000 plus people who love their identity as hidden potatoes, that they cannot allow themselves to accept that these people are not saying the truth to them. When they go and listen to their videos, they're not being told accurate truth. And I think it's really sad. I think that says a lot about how many people may be lonely and they make a friend, like they become a part of a friend group online. And that friend group is so important to them because they don't have anyone to share their life with, perhaps, or maybe they don't have any friends that are like peer group, same age, same gender, whatnot, that they just love that feeling of being a part of a group. They love having an identity and being with that side chat. That is comforting to them and they need it. There's not been very many that have looked at the evidence and walked away. They're willing to let these people call Tylee a bitch. She literally said Tylee was a bitch. Lauren, you didn't know Tylee. And the poor thing was absolutely brutalized. It's not even relatable that thought would even come into your mind. much less you would have the audacity to type it in a text or a chat. And yet you did. You did. And all the hidden potatoes, oh, we support being a victim advocate. John and Lauren are victim advocates. Really? Have you seen what they've said about Kresha? Were you watching when John, in the most cruel moment I've seen on live stream, says to Colby Ryan, oh, I would adopt you? It was just pandering. It was using Colby like he was someone's tool. But here we go. What about when Lauren said, "Oh, I understand how Charles felt. He was asking for help, and I know what that's like. I've been asking for help from my evil stalkers." Oh, are you talking about the stalker who made a video on TikTok and never used your name, never used the name of your channel, only got, 50 views? Stop, Lauren. It's absurd. The only reason you did that 9-hour live is the judge put you in your place. The judge said, this is absurd. You're not going to silence people and take from them their constitutionally protected rights, which is freedom of speech. You're not going to use the court for your own little personal whipping stick. You're not going to do that. And you were pissed off. You've been pissed off ever since. You have Christina stalked, literally followed by your little RN friend and Aspen Connor and others at CrimeCon. Years later, after all this happened, you're obsessive and you're unprincipled. And the hidden potatoes can't pull away from the image they've created of these two people as being moral and ethical and fighting the good fight and telling the truth and looking out for victims' rights. This woman ordered 144 roses for JJ's memorial. You guys think that is cute? It's a psychopathic deviant in my head. The image, the delusion, the madness of believing that you're going to be queen of the 144,000 of biblical lore, that you're going to be the queen of that 144,000. The rest of us, none of us gonna survive the end times. You actually paid homage to Lori Vallow when you bought that 144 roses. But again, if you're not smart enough to understand that, then maybe the hidden potatoes are exactly the right crowd for your channel.
That Alan potentially has some history of violence that we're not aware of, that nobody's talking about, that's been overlooked and neglected. So is Alan like this perfect introverted?
Oh, it's neglected. The police neglected to gather the information, the evidence that Richard Allen was a domestic violence perpetrator. Now the police were, your story is so flawed that you have to discredit every single person in the story, except old John.
CVS pharmacist technician that all his neighbors adore and that has no strife at home. Nope, he's not that guy.
Yes, he is. Look how
And again,
proud
people
he
are
is.
saying, well, there are a lot of guys like this. We are talking about an abuser turned murderer and the research and just saying and asking the question, would he fit that profile?
No, you're not, Lauren. Your husband just made a terrific accusation that was based on the misapplication of a non-representative sample for analysis. His statistics had nothing to do with the price of eggs in China, Lauren, nothing. And on top of that, midstream, he goes from talking about the rarity of a child who is murdered by a stranger with the motivation of sexual assault. In the same sentence, he transitions like olive oil to statistics on IPV. Husbands beating up wives. Then he goes on to take a cry for help, a call saying my husband wants to hurt himself, takes that and now just makes a proclamation that was an episode of domestic violence in which every responding officer broke state and federal law. He called the wife a liar. The psychologist who said, oh, during the private mental health meetings, 58 times, 59 times, Richard Allen told me that he did it. And he said that he was a sexual perpetrator against his daughter and against his sister. And guess what, y'all? Both his daughter and his sister testified, and they said, absolutely not. He never touched us. He never made us uncomfortable. He is not a sexual abuser of me. Do you know that when his daughter was testifying to the supposed sexual abuse that was reported by the psychologist who is the president of the Gray Hughes fan club and was in his channel every damn night? She said that Richard Allen told her that he may have touched his daughter and that he sexually assaulted his sister. And while his daughter was being questioned about what this heifer Monica said, she was looking at her father, smiling at him.
With the research you've just shared.
Right. So the question I get all the
research
time
was
is Alan
bullshit.
couldn't have done it. He has no history of violence. Not true. He does have a history of violence. He just happened to be not charged with it.
Know that. You don't know that. You don't know what you're talking about. You misled the listeners.
And he also happens to fit this profile of what we would call an out of the blue murderer, which is somebody.
There's no profile of an out of the blue murderer, John.
With some previous history of domestic strife and abuse that then at some point becomes murder later on.
Name one marriage where there wasn't some degree of strife. Strife does not mean domestic violence, and it certainly doesn't mean child murder of not one kid, but two in broad daylight with no element of cover to hide behind as you commit an assault after dragging the two girls through frozen river waters and up a 4-foot hill up halfway to the cemetery. The entire thing seemed to have the brainchild of this entire scenario started with Gray Hughes's channel. I am absolutely horrified that the person who was charged with evaluating this man, was hanging out with the king of Delphi.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've covered a lot already. That this would likely, according to the research, be sexually
No.
motivated,
No,
and
no,
that
no.
yes, do you necessarily need a criminal record to commit a crime like this? Not necessarily.
Nope, you don't.
Okay.
You absolutely don't. And I could amplify this narrative. I could run with this even further and
Let's
say,
don't, John.
well,
let's
we're going to
don't.
deepen this a lot, by the way. I'm still at the surface of our analysis here.
Aren't
But-
you horrified by that comment? Who's horrified? This pompous ass says, oh, I'm just at the surface of this analysis. No, you're not. You are deep in it. This is the biggest pile of made up, misapplied bullshit I think I've ever heard. He's so smart. He's so proud of himself. He thinks he's so smart.
It's not hard to imagine a guy like Richard Allen having, for whatever reasons,
Look at Little Biddle. Well, this changes my thinking a little bit. Based on fiction, based on fantasy, contrived fantasy. Is that okay? Does the collateral damage matter? Does Richard Allen's wife and daughter and sister, do they matter? Are they entitled to truth about their loved one? I personally think they are. I think you owe truth, facts to the to victims of crime and to the family members, which is why if you are the psychologist that has been charged by the judge to do and complete the evaluation, you damn well better be professional and ethical, not hanging out in Gray Hughes's channel every night with Kelsey German. Those statements that were submitted by this psychologist, are you really going to believe them? It's incredible. The unethical bullshit coming from two PhD level psychologists is terrifying. It's mind numbing.
having sexual fantasies about young teenagers, young female.
So now we got Richard Allen having sexual fantasies of young teenagers. No evidence to that. No reports of that. No history of incidents to suggest that. No CSAM materials found. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Listen.
But it's not hard to imagine a guy like Richard Allen having, for whatever reasons, having sexual fantasies about young teenagers, young female.
Now we're going to imagine. It's easy to imagine that Richard Allen was having sexual fantasies about young teenagers. Everybody heard that, right? Listen close.
Teenagers. And one scenario I could develop, and this is speculation, but it's consistent with sexual motivations, is that Allen, but let's just say hypothetically, that Richard Allen's daughter was entering puberty and adolescence, and perhaps
This is go ahead.
perhaps he already, maybe he already had some attractions to young female adolescents. And as his daughter was in that age range, it may have heightened or amplified those fantasies.
Richard Allen's daughter was not entering puberty. You self-obsessed, pompous, infantile egomaniac. She was 22 years old, not a young teen, and not entering puberty. And she testified that he never touched her, never made her uncomfortable. And while she was undergoing this humiliation, she was holding eye contact with her father, smiling at him. But the psychologist who said that bullshit was hanging out in Greg Hughes' channel every night, including when Kelsey German was going live with the equipment that Gray Hughes bought her. He wanted her on YouTube. He wanted Kelsey German going live on YouTube. Why? Why did he want that? Oh, because that was his friend, you guys. That's normal, huh? Yeah. How about you? You're a 50-year-old man making friends with a 20-something-year-old kid. You comfortable with that? Does that seem okay? Not for me either. But that's the facts. That's historically accurate. I haven't said a single thing that was inaccurate or wrong.
And obviously his daughter would be taboo. I think most people would know that, including Richard Allen. But the fantasies continued.
You're fucking humiliating. What do you mean? The fantasies continued. Nothing continued. There was nothing there, John. There was not a single speck of evidence of those types of thoughts, other than from an unprincipled, perhaps unstable woman who was also called psychologist, who was hanging out with a man online who believed that he alone was entitled to report on the murders of Abby and Libby, who befriended Becky and Mike Patty, who bought Kelsey German equipment and taught her how to do a YouTube channel. You know what I did? Let me tell you what I did when I found out about this weird, creepy, we're going to make Kelsey a YouTuber. I said, Kelsey, don't do this. It's not what you need to heal. And being a YouTube creator is the worst environment imaginable to try to heal. You don't believe me? Ask someone who's credible. Why don't you ask Gary Mercado his opinions? YouTube creators, we collect a lot of people that like us and support us, and we collect some attention from people that are unstable. The last place that I would want my daughter or my son or a victim of crime or a patient, the last place I would want them is going live on a public YouTube channel, being exposed to the unstable people that find us. They can say horrible things, terrible things. Why would I want to take a young girl who had already been horribly, horribly traumatized and say, here, let's just give you some more trauma, become a YouTube creator, let people threaten death on you, trick you and tell you that they're the killer of Abby and Libby and you're next. Let's do that. And yet, that's what Gray Hughes did. Come on, Kelsey, I'll be your buddy. I'll spend my money and buy you the equipment you need to go live. I'll take the time and teach you how to do it. I want you online so you're exposed to people that scare the shit out of you. That's a great way to heal trauma. Facetiousness. No. You protect people that have been traumatized. You protect them. You say, you know what? Maybe one day you will want to tell your story. And maybe telling your story comes in the form of a book, or maybe it comes in the form of like a documentary like Colby Ryan is doing. Maybe it even comes in the form of a YouTube channel. After you've healed, after there is some distance between the event and where you are today. But right now, Kelsey, you got your hands full. You're trying to figure out the new normal in your life. You need to figure out how to manage the loss of your sister friend. You have to develop some coping tools to manage the emotional firestorm that is happening in your brain. You do not need to open yourself up to the types of critiques and unstable people that sometimes pop up on YouTube. There's a reason that my published email address, it goes to an email account that I don't ever check, because I don't expose myself to people that are unstable. I don't want to read what they have to say. And if they're making death threats, I can open that email up and find those emails and give them to the police if I need to. But I'm a healthy person, and I know that I have to insulate myself and not let unhealthy people have access to my thoughts. So now we're saying that Richard Allen is having sexual fantasies, and he's a domestic violence dude, and he having sexual fantasies about his pubescent daughter, his young teenage daughter who's just entering puberty. There is no daughter entering puberty, John. She's a grown-ass woman. She's 22 years old at the time that this happened. What in the hell are you talking about? Oh, it's a good story. It's very psychodynamic, Dr. Jules. Yeah, but it's a lie.
The fantasies, for whatever reasons, they probably continued. They escalated.
Did you hear that?
It's not hard to imagine.
The fantasies probably continued. The fantasies probably continued and began to escalate. What is he talking about? This never happened. Oh, look, we got Blonde Granny coming in, one of the hidden potatoes. Libby resembled his daughter. I suspect sexual abuse. Collateral victims. Now, this 22-year-old woman is having a world of strangers talking about the sexual abuse that her father perpetrated on her. Except he didn't. Except that she was able to get on the witness stand, look her dad in the eye, smile at him with tears in her eyes, and say, he was a great dad. He never did anything like that to me. And his sister got on the stand and said that didn't happen to me.
Imagine somebody like Alan really struggling with these fantasies and almost to the point where they could have become a type of obsession.
Oh, now, okay.
And it
Now
gets
it's an obsession. Now Richard Allen has gone from having fantasies of his prepubescent daughter, who doesn't exist, by the way. There is no preteen daughter at the time of the attacks. But nevertheless, he is obsessing on his non-existent young teen daughter. Do you hear this, you guys? Do you understand what I'm trying to show you? These are his words. It's fiction. It's not real. He's making up a story.
to the point, like Koberger, for example, that Koberger seems clearly a case of someone who had some obsessive compulsive features. Koberger
And again,
had-
Koberger is also just charged, but yes.
Yeah, also charged. Koberger felt some need to act on those fantasies, those obsessions, in order to reduce the anxiety he was experiencing, if it is Koberger. And same thing here. So you would imagine, so somebody with no previous record, although he could have a record, he doesn't because he wasn't charged. Somebody with no previous
Yeah.
record of
What in you know what, John? The cops know when someone should be charged and when there has been no crime committed. Okay?
violence, with there's some family conflicts, family strife, right? He's, for whatever reasons, he's developing these fantasies. They're probably at some point becoming overpowering. There's probably
There
a
is
triggering event.
literally no credible evidence that there were obsessive fantasies of sex with a non-existent preteen daughter that looked like his daughter or looked like Libby German, and that it was so overwhelming and overpowering that he just couldn't fight the urge. And so he went and found two girls to assault in broad daylight in the middle of the afternoon with no cover. He's telling you a story that isn't real. But the unethical part is that he's presenting it as if it were real. He's quoting statistics. He's reading from educational type, academic type books. But the reality is he's misleading you. He's going from talking about child murder, child sexual assault by a stranger, and in the same exact sentence, he then reverts to using IPV statistics and storytelling. Now he's talking about statistics that have to do with a husband who beats a wife. Then he uses this phone call that Kathy made that her husband was actually suicidal, not that he was trying to hurt her or her adult daughter. And Kathy took him to the hospital. It's incredible. And it's exhausting. And this is exactly the reason that I don't watch these clowns.
In here, I don't know what that is. If I had to guess, it might have something to do with his daughter.
God, man.
I would
Well,
speculate that that there might have been some type of fight or falling out with his daughter, and I'll get into that more later. But
Oh, cool.
Okay.
We're going to build more stories. Oh, well, it could have happened. Like in my imagination, I think there was a fight with a preteen daughter. And that daughter, who is just a young teenager who's just entering puberty, well, that daughter looks like Libby. And I think he just was having all kind of salacious, sick, weird sexual obsessions that he just couldn't control it anymore. Yeah. And so he was so out of control that he went to the bridge that day to find a victim. And he got so lucky, he found 2 victims. And he was able to get these 2 athletes, even though he's 5'2", fat, overweight, drinking way too much, he's able to like make them walk down the riverbed, stumbling over rocks, crossing through running water, and then you got to climb up a 4-foot ledge when you get to the other side. But they didn't have any trouble with that, even though Libby lost a shoe and sock. He's able to control them all the way up the hill. Yeah, they got halfway to the hill. There's no cover. The trees are sparse. No leaves on any of the trees. And even if, here's more psychology for you. Even if those girls stayed together because they had a belief that if they did as they were told, he would not hurt them. Guess what? The first girl that got a box cutter on her knife, on her neck, the other girl would have broke and run. She'd have been gone from there. What do you think? Think she just stood there? It's okay, well, I'm next. Hell no. The story doesn't make any sense. But man, he's excited. Look at him. He's actually become flushed. This is a little worrisome, John. Why exactly is your face turned red now that we're getting into the details of sexual assault and murder?
And he, for whatever reasons, I don't know if he knew that Libby and Abby were going to be on the, the Monon High Bridge.
You don't know if he knew that Abby and Libby would be there? Is that what you said? Okay, but John, you're writing the story. You're the one making up this fictional account of a non-existent preteen daughter who's just going through puberty, who is the focus of uncontrollable obsessions of sexual assault by a pharmacy technician who's managed to have a long career and not broken any laws and not ever hurt a flea. You're writing the story, John. What do you mean you don't know? Just write it into your dumb story. How about?
Trail that day. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's any connections there. It doesn't necessarily have to be. There could have been some trigger that brought him. He knew that school was out. That
See him look down to the left. He's just using his imagination. Could have been. School was out. Oh, that makes a good storyline.
day, February 13th, he knew that there might be kids on the bridge because kids, when school's out, they go over to the Monon Bridge Hike Trail. And he went there armed. He went there. We know he went there with
Those
a
are
gun
Christmas presents for the
and a box cutter, potentially. And allegedly, he went there with those weapons. He may have just been looking to see if there were any victims that he could, it could have been opportunistic. He may not have had
alternate storyline. Wait a minute. Maybe we don't want him to already know that they're going to be there. Yeah, I can see that. We could just make it a different storyline. That's what we'll do. So bad, y'all.
These specific victims in mind, but he may have had the idea of acting on his fantasies in mind when he went to the trail that day, hoping it maybe perhaps
Now, judging by the flushed countenance of Dr. John, he's clearly enjoying this exercise in literary literature creation. He's having a good time. He likes it. He likes it. Here's my question. All the people that are listening to this, are they enjoying it? Like, is this as he makes up this completely fictional account of the real life murders of two young women, are they enjoying the fantasy? Like, are they fans of horror fiction, the macabre? Is that why this works? Is that why there's 340,000 subscribers? Is he just simply giving them what they want? Does he know that he's lying? Does he know that he's just writing a storyline out that doesn't have any foundation in truth? The reality is that Abby and Libby were murdered. They were killed. That is real. There's nothing that shows that Richard Allen was a domestic abuser. There's nothing to show that he was having sexual fantasies that he could not control. There's nothing to say that he had a daughter who was just entering puberty. This reads like a Hollywood story, not the facts from the actual investigation and case, right? And what of the prison psychologist who's hanging out with Gray Hughes every night? And the truth about Gray Hughes is, he was very proprietary over the entire case. He was very hard on creators that tried to talk about the case. He wouldn't let them. He'd come into their lives and derail the conversation. I know, it happened to me. He befriended Kelsey, bought her all this equipment, tried to drag her into the world of YouTube. Good God, what kind of adult creator would do that, knowing how difficult some of the negative comments can actually really be? Is that really where a crime victim needs to go to heal? As a YouTube creator? What? Look what people did to Summer Wells' family. Bad situation, guys. This is bad news. This is bad news.
hoping that he could corner a couple of victims into, as he says, down the hill, that he can corner them at the end of the bridge, push them down the hill into a remote area, and then take advantage of them.
And this theory is compelling to me, but it also answers, I think, another question that is asked a lot when it comes to this case, which is, what would the motive be? And could this be a crime of opportunity, or would he have to know the victims? I think trying to understand, many people are asking, is Richard Allen's daughter the same age? No, she's not. She was a young adult when this happened, in her early 20s.
Thank you, Lauren. Now Lauren goes, okay, well, maybe we better put some facts in here before we get in trouble. Yeah, she's 22 years old. And she loved her dad, or loves her dad. The wife never believed that he did this. They made this guy go nuts by putting him into solitary confinement for more than a year. And the medications that were so-called being administered. 2 prison guards that were overseeing him every day were wearing Odin patches, and he was terrified of these 2 prison guards. I don't know what it all means, but I know that part is fact. And what John said about his daughter was just entering puberty, he was having sexual fantasies, that came from his mind. There's a dark, scary place. Yeah.
So the question is, did he need to have a connection to them? Or could this have been, okay, you're already shaking your head. Could this have been a crime of opportunity? Does there need to be a connection between Richard Allen and Abby and Libby?
No. I mean, there might be. We don't know. This is where law enforcement really needs to look under every rock. Did he know? Is it possible he knew? He must have known that school was out. Did he know?
Remember, guys, Libby was communicating with a known pedophile the night before. A guy who is in prison for CSAM. That's who she's messaging with. But they choose a complete fabrication of this pharmacy technician who's never been charged with a crime, who has a daughter who looks at him in the courtroom, smiles as she says, "I love my dad. He did not ever do these things to me that y'all are saying." And they're just going to completely ignore who Libby was in contact with within 24 hours of her disappearance and ultimate murder. Oh my God. This is why I don't watch them.
That they or some young adolescent females were going to be on the Monon High Bridge Trail that day. I mean, he probably suspected it. Did he know that those 2 victims specifically were there? I don't know. But it doesn't have to be that he knows. It simply has to be that what has to occur is that for whatever reasons, for whatever triggering event occurs, that he wants to head out there and see if he can take advantage of a situation that might develop. He wants to find an opportunity potentially to corner probably one young girl. It happened to be.
Hey, John, question. In all of your fine higher education, were you ever exposed to information about cognitive distortions? You're doing an awful lot of mind reading. You seem to believe that you can look into the thoughts of Richard Allen and know what he was thinking, to include motivation and planning. I'm here to say, as a clinical psychologist, you can't do that. You don't have the ability to read Richard Allen's mind. You can't do that, John. And yet, y'all are doing it, aren't you? Right here on live with the cameras rolling, so everybody can see exactly how unethical you are.
Me too. I don't necessarily think he intended that.
Oh my
But,
God, he doesn't.
But I think his goal is to act on his sexual fantasies.
Oh, now we know his goal.
And in that sense, on that particular day, he appears to be more of a predator. He's going out there with.
I thought he was an abuser, murderer. Now we got to add in abuser, predator, murderer. John, why don't you just write books, fictional books, and leave this type of analysis alone? have some respect for the families, the victims that are affected by these terrible crimes. Give them some peace. Stop with your disgusting pornographic attributions of crimes against children. Stop. You don't know how to do it in an ethical way. I don't think that you know your ethics code. I don't think you could pass a basic test on your state law that governs psychology. It's my guess, just my guess. Maybe we should make up a story about you, John, the bumbling psychologist that has no idea how to conduct himself in ethical fashion, moral fashion, who inadvertently writes a pretend story misleading thousands of YouTube subscribers about a pedophile murderer, and in reality the real pedophile murderer thinks it's really funny and begins to hunt you down so that he can teach you where your whole book was just wrong. That sounds like a great murder mystery book. Should we do that for you, John? No, I don't think so either. It'd be a terrible idea.
This desire to fulfill these fantasies he's probably had for years.
God.
And speaking of that, by the way, in his interview with police,
Yeah.
they asked him why.
Mm-hmm.
So
Listen to this,
he
guys.
says quite explicitly in the probable cause statement that he's there, he's on the trail, he's on the bridge. He acknowledges he's on the bridge. And not only that, but at least three other hikers that day,
Girls.
adolescents, by the way, who were out of school, they saw him and identified him too as bridge guy. Okay. But this is fascinating. This is a little tidbit that nobody's talked about.
Look at this pompous, infantile egomaniac. Look at the smug smile on his face. He's so proud of what he's about to say. He feels so important that he's so much better than the people of Delphi. Listen to this.
And that is, the police asked him, well, okay, you went out on the Monon High Bridge where people saw him going out at least 50 feet onto the bridge. Obviously, he went across it, but they asked him, why were you up there? You know what he said to that? You know what his response
John?
to why he was on the bridge? Because, quote, he wanted to, quote, watch the fish.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? What?
He wanted to-
Why are you smiling, Lauren? Like, I don't understand. What's this like magical information that just eludes me?
yeah, right. Like, let's think about that statement for a second, right? Like, first of all, the bridge is so high that you're not going to see any fish.
Oh, really? Again, so much. King John has spoken. Yet another proclamation from the kingdom. The bridge is so high, you're not going to see any fish. How high is the bridge? You seem to be such an expert. I would think that you would be able to quote to the inch how high this bridge is and how you can't see any fish. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Dr. Jules is sitting in her damn rocking chair, looking out into the ocean and watching the pelicans fly 100 feet, 100 yards above the surface of the water. And they seem to do just fine seeing fish swimming in the water because they can do a simultaneous dive bomb and come up with a big ass fish in their beak. Wonder how they managed to do that, John.
It's a nonsensical statement.
How?
It's just one of those little pieces that if you're looking for, if you want to try to exonerate Richard Allen and you hear a statement like that, you're thinking, okay, well, that's not why he was on that bridge.
Why? Why are you
He's
saying?
not on that bridge to what? So what? He has a Zen moment where he's like, I got to go meditate and watch the fish on a bridge that if I fall from, I die, because that's super.
You little cowardly little man. All right, what do you say if you want to exonerate blah 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 blah? Okay, hang on. Let's disconnect from the two geniuses. I've got something else to look at. Give me a minute, please. Oh, shoot. Where's my... Okay, let me think a minute. Okay, that's going to be a video on my channel. Okay, hold on, because I got to pull up a video that I pre-recorded. So let me do that. And this would be a great time to take a bathroom break, to go get you a drink, to take a little break, because we did a 4-hour video and that's a long time. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling up information that I'm about to use to prove that, once again, John doesn't know what he's talking about and his arrogance is offensive. And you guys can welcome Captain Kirk Reacts into the chat. I'm a little surprised he's in my channel because we don't exactly travel in the same circles, but welcome, Kurt. It's great to see you. How clear is the water on the Monon High Bridge? All right, so let me open up. Here we go. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to share screen. How clear is the water from the Monon High Bridge? And I'm going to make it large. Actually, I think I can make it larger if I use my screen to zoom in big. Yeah, it's not that he doesn't understand fishing in the water. It's that he was so arrogant about it, laughing like he's the smartest guy on the planet. And anyone that loves nature and fishing, that all right, if you're getting water or a drink, we're about to get started again, friends. Okay, let's take a look, shall we? Thank you. The opening scene that you're about to see is taken with a 4K drone. Hey, sure. 4K matching your own 20/20 vision. It's actually a drone that is far above the bridge. It's higher than the actual bridge. And what I was looking for, I was looking at people that have taken photographs and videos to see, is this murky, dirty water? Or can you actually see the bottom of the river? Can you see stones, rocks, logs? Okay, everybody with me? All right, so let's take a little peek, because according to the grand and glorious John, you're stupid if you think you can see a fish. You're dumb if you would want to see a fish. Right? Take a peek. This is incredible. Look at that water. You know, this guy right here, he's over 6 feet tall. And there's a part in this video where he's standing at the same place that Bridge Guy was standing when Gray Hughes told us that Bridge Guy's going to be short around 5'2", 5'4". Bridge Guy is actually the same size as this guy who's over 6 feet tall. There you go. It's after the fact that Richard Allen has been found guilty by a jury of his peers. He's in prison for the rest of his life unless he gets an appeal or wins his appeal. But that's why this whole YouTube interference is dangerous. So he's flying a drone because obviously, they've now stopped you from being able to go out there. Thank you, Shirley, for joining. Appreciate that. Just a minute. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to get it situated so that you can see the water at the best angle. Hey, Sketty. Whoa, look at there. Glory, hallelujah. You can literally you see how far above the bridge the drone is? Can you see the bottom? Can you see the rocks? Can you see where it starts getting dark? Yes. You know what that means, John? Yes, you can see the fish. People actually go out or used to go out on the bridge to watch the fish. I actually found a bunch of information that was posted by the state addressing this hobby of going out on the Monon High Bridge and looking at the fish and the different types of fish that you would see. I'm going to let that play and let y'all just sort of watch because I pulled up the information about the fish, but I don't know where it's at. So give me a minute to find it while you guys watch. Let's see. Still looking. Hold on. I should have put it in its own document. Put it on my timeline instead. No, it's not right there. Oh, maybe it is here. Hold on. Let's see. You see fish. Here it is right here. Okay, I found it. Look at the rocks of all different depths. And look how high up they are. No question that you would be able to see the fish in this water. Remember, the banks that you're looking at over to the left, 4 feet tall, maybe 5 feet tall in some places. You can see the rocks just as clear as day. That means you can see the fish. All right, now let me read you my document. And because I'm getting tired, because this has been a very long video, I'm just going to read what I wrote on my notes, okay? Richard Allen said he was on the bridge because he wanted to, quotation marks, see the fish. John acts like this solves the entire case. Clearly, that is not why he's on the bridge, says John Matthias. Well, I went looking for information. Can you see the fish from the Monon High Bridge? And here's what I learned. Yes, you absolutely can see the fish. It is absolutely realistic to believe that you can go out and go fish spotting from the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana. Some quick facts about the bridge. The Monon High Bridge is part of the Monon High Bridge Trail. It's a historic 1891 iron railroad trestle that crossed the Deer Creek. It stands 60 to 63 feet above the water, 10 yards, and is now a safe, renovated pedestrian bridge with new decking and railings that were completed in 2022 to 2023. It offers expansive, scenic views of the creek and the heavily wooded Deer Creek Valley below. Can you actually see fish? WRTV.com says Deer Creek supports many fish populations, including smallmouth bass, which is a popular game fish in Indiana. The creek is often described as shallow and wadable in some spots, with water clarity that varies from excellent to moderately obstructed. CarrollCountyComet.com says, from the elevated position on the bridge, you get a clear downward view of the water surface, the flow, the rocks, and the creek bed. Individual smaller fish are easily discernible, though it may require patience as your eyes adjust. The water is notably calm. If there is good sunlight, then the clear conditions allow you to spot fish activity easily. Large fish are regularly observable. People specifically visit this bridge in Indiana to watch fish from this particular vantage point. Here is what the bridge and creek look like from above, and then it goes on to show, and then they give you a fish spotting guide so that you can identify the fish that you actually find. Isn't that interesting, John? And your pompous laughter, like people are so dumb and you're the only one with the brain, including smarter than Lauren, which at this point I'm beginning to doubt. InsideIndianaBusiness.com, it says, the view of the renovated bridge with the railings, the creek is visible on the right side below. The trail is now a popular, easy paved path with green scenery, benches, and overlooks. It is a nice spot for hiking and enjoying the views of the creek. Tips for spotting fish. Fish spotting from the Monon High Bridge is an often enjoyed pastime by many tourists in the area. It is best if you go on a sunny day, and if you bring binoculars, you have the best chance of spotting even the smallest of fish. Best times for spotting fish from the Monon High Bridge. Combine fish activity patterns with water clarity and viewing conditions. Time of day, dawn. First light to mid-morning is the top time, followed closely by late afternoon through sunset. Fish, especially the smallmouth bass, are most active and often feed close to the surface or in the shallower riffles or pools during the low light periods. The angled sunlight tends to reduce surface glare that you can often see at midday, making it easier to see into the water in the morning and evening hours. Local reports and general Indiana fishing patterns confirm the bite, meaning the visibility of active fish. The bite peaks at first and last light. The best seasons for fish spotting from the Monon High Bridge, spring, meaning from March to May, it's excellent fish spotting conditions. As water warms, fish become very active. Pre-spawn periods offer great opportunities for fish spotting. The fall, which is September to November, often one of the strongest seasons to spot specifically smallmouth bass. They have aggressive feeding before winter. Summer, June and August, they're still productive, but focus your viewing times on early morning or late afternoon, evening. Water will run a bit warmer and often is murkier due to the runoff from rain. Winter, it's possible, but less ideal due to the cold weather, which causes the fish to be less active. I don't know, you guys, this sounds like a thing that people do there. Low, clear water flows are the ideal conditions for maximum visibility. It's best after dry periods when the creek runs lower and less turbid. High flows after rain make the water murky and harder to see. In calm, windless weather, it will reduce the surface ripples that can obscure the view. Clear or lightly overcast skies, wear polarized sunglasses that will dramatically improve your ability to see the subsurface by cutting glare. We're not done, guys. They actually give you pro tips that you access from the USGS, United States Government Services. Check the USGS gauge for Deer Creek near Delphi. It gives you the site number 033297700 before you go. Lower discharge values mean clearer water and better spotting conditions. Here are some extra tips for spotting fish from the bridge. Look into the deeper pools along the undercut banks or over the riffles, the small ponds where fish often hold. Be patient. Fish may take several minutes to appear or move into view. Binoculars can help, but they are not necessary. The renovated bridge with railings makes it easy and safe to lean over and scan the river for fish. These recommendations draw from local Delphi area fishing experiences, smallmouth bass behavior in Midwestern creeks, and Indiana's DNR patterns. Conditions can vary with weather, so real-time checks will help. Fascinating, isn't it? Also, you want to know something else fascinating? Witnesses did not match Richard Allen to the bridge guy. Yeah, he lied about that too. Well, let's just say he took some liberties with that description. Carroll County Sheriff Tony Leazenby took the stand in the afternoon and admitted during cross redirect that Allen may not have matched witness descriptions of the bridge guy. That is the trial transcript. Let me read it again, John. The sheriff of Carroll County took the stand in the afternoon and admitted during cross-examination that Richard Allen did not match witness descriptions of the bridge guy. They also didn't say somebody was bloody. They said they saw a guy who was muddy. M-U-D-D-Y. According to the radio station WTHR, defense attorney Brad Rossi, or Rosie, said that the witness, Betsy Blair, told police she saw a young man who was boyish and beautiful, quote unquote, that he had brown, poofy hair. She described the man as being in his 20s or 30s. I ask you, John, does that sound like Richard Allen? No, but it does sound like, it sounds like the second photograph or second drawing that was made of the perpetrator, right? Does sound like that, huh? I don't know why. Let's see. I don't know why that is not showing up. There it is. Well, who would say that he is beautiful? And do you see a tasseled, like head full of brown hair? Does this man appear to be in his 20s? Kind of odd, right? Kind of strange. Well, then there's this problem. If my computer will work with me here. This is a little odd. Is that strange? It's so weird that it seems to be the same dude. Right? It's very odd. I have more where I looked at Garrett Kurtz and Garrett Kurtz's best friend. And the best friend looked exactly like the other drawing, the younger drawing, the guy that was the younger guy. So the whole story is very strange. You have someone, an eyewitness, that says bridge guy was a young guy who was beautiful with a head full of messy brown hair. And you can match up this picture and it looks exactly like Barry Morphew. What the hell? Now, even down to his eyes, the shape of his eyes, the puffiness under his eyeballs, the length of his nose. It is very odd. Now, I'm not saying that Barry Morphew is bridge guy. I'm saying we have to be really careful with these drawings and these pictures. And which one do you think looks more like the police sketch? Does Richard Allen look like the police sketch? His eyes don't look like anything like the drawing. But Barry Morphew's eyes are an absolute ringer. Even the hair. He's got a lot of brown hair up there. What about Richard Allen's hair? Has he got a lot of brown hair up there? Nope, that ship has sailed, it appears. All right. I think we're just about done. Let me double check. Yep. Okay. So we are done here. Let me. All right. So I think Captain Kirk came in because he's a Brittany J fan. I got some messages that came in, people leaving like comments and stuff. So she must have done a live or something talking about my live that I did the other day, where I explained to her that the roach is a really unhealthy situation for her home, and having roaches crawling on you while you are talking is an indication that your house needs to be fumigated, and you've got a newborn baby, and the allergens from the legs of the roach. And apparently, now she's got her channel people coming in to defend her honor. So thank you, Captain Kirk, for coming in to speak up to your queen, protect little old Brittany J. She needs a little bit of protection, right? Do you care about the roaches? Like, you can make fun of my channel name, which is really a statement on crime, that in today's world, we've reached a point where people are presumed guilty, and we're supposed to defend ourselves and have some way to prove that we're innocent. And that's not the way that the law reads. People are presumed innocent. So I'm sorry that you're struggling with making sense of that, but I can overlook that because, after all, you're a Brittany J supporter and you're supporting something that it is really unhealthy, in my opinion. All right. So he's also, I think, really good friends with another, like a Florida creator. I think they're like friends in real life, but we're chill. So I don't know why he would be coming in speaking up for her, because nothing's going on. It's probably the Brittany J thing is what I would bet. But thank you, Captain Kirk, for the view. That's okay. All right. So that's that. I went ahead and let it play. We had been here for 3 hours, and I said, let's just do this and get it over with, and move on. And so that's what we're going to do. This was really the end of my reaction to the Richard Allen analysis and how I felt about what they did. There's a lot of other content out there that is, waiting to be made. Please keep an eye on Every Day with Jay, because she's got a topic that's getting ready to be put out that I think we'll all really be interested in. It's about the Matthiases, I think. So we're waiting on that. And if I see you over in Jay's channel, then say hello, because I'll be there too. All right. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And since we got a little bit of, troll activity from Brittany J's channel, let's go out with this fun little ditty.
Welcome to the circus, the true crime YouTube scene, where drama's the star and the facts aren't so clean. She's on her channel, she's screaming with flair. Jay Ducks, poor Nana, her address is bare. The drama volcano, it's ready to blow. Subs grab their popcorn for the Crama Show. It's Crama's True Crime Circus. Round and round we go. Not much truth, just trauma, stealing all the
Thank you,
show.
Cinnamon.
Narcissism, borderline, maybe psychopathy, fueling all the chaos in this YouTube spree. The ladies are screeching, they're hurling those names. Snake, liar, fraud. It's their favorite game. No problems defined, no solution in sight. Just a merry-go-round of emotional fights. Subs egg it on, they're loving the mess. Trauma bonding nightly in this hot circus press. It's Crama's True Crime Circus. Round and round we go. Not much truth, just trauma, stealing all the show. Narcissism, borderline, maybe psychopathy, fueling all the chaos in this YouTube spree. It's a borderline's dream, this emotional ride. No facts, just feelings with nowhere to hide. They gather each night for their drama parade. Significance found in the mess that they've made. So tune in tomorrow, the circus won't stop. Crama's True Crime keeps the drama on top. With insults and screams, it's a wild, wild scene. Crama's True Crime Circus, fighting to be YouTube's drama queen.
All right, and then our favorite.
Oh, Lauren, Lauren, queen of the screen. With Botox so tight, you look like a dream. But your skin's so thin, it's like tissue paper. One wrong word and poof, you're a vapor. Hey, Lauren, Lauren, toes all sore and red. From folks stepping on them, now you're crying in bed. People are mean, you wail through the night. But you swing at victims' kin, what a sight. From YouTube throne, Queen Lauren so grand. Now cast to the peasants with pitchforks in hand. You dish out the drama, true crime with flair. But cross your highness, oh beware. Family members grieving, you pounce like a cat. Claws out and hissing, imagine that. Botox can't hide that frown upside down. Your kingdom's crumbling, you're losing your crown. Hey, Lauren, Lauren, toes all sore and red. From folks stepping on them, now you're crying in bed. People are mean, you wail through the night. But you swing at victims' skin, what a sight. From YouTube throne, Queen Lauren so grand. Now cast to the peasants with pitchforks in hand. Once upon a vid, you ruled the true crime wave. Subs in the millions, oh what a rave. But thin skin and sore toes led to your fall. Now you're scrolling comments, ignored by all. Peasant life calls with no royal decree. Just Botox bills and reality TV. Hey, Lauren, Lauren, pack up your crown. The kingdom's evicting, you're heading downtown. Toes still aching, tears on your sheets. But hey, next adventure, true crime on the street. From queen to the fields with the mud and the muck. Lauren, oh Lauren, next time, better luck. Apologize, Lauren, to victims of our